This is Andi Purewal for Boxing News. I'm joined by Mike Costello here in London. Mike, back here at your old amateur club, how does it feel?
Every time I walk in this place, a smile just spreads across my face. You know, I never forget the great days that I had here, and it was at another premises about a mile away when I first started as a kid of 11 or 12, and then here finished my career and then started coaching. And I've often said that boxing has given me three lives: as a boxer, a coach, and now a commentator. But the first two were the most important in so many different senses.
So we're here today because Matchroom have offered up a generous donation of £10,000 to keep the club going. Obviously, as somebody who works with Matchroom, what does that mean to you to see them supporting grassroots boxing like this?
You use the word supporting. This is a club that, if it were a patient, was on life support, really, was in deep, deep financial trouble. So this kind of donation is so important. And I know there are other clubs around the country in the same kind of dire straits, but there are people like Terry Pearson here, Keith Walters here, who are keeping the club afloat somehow. And I remember back in 2007, the man who was then the head of the International Amateur Boxing Organisation from Taiwan, called Dr. C.K. Wu, decided that the word amateur should be taken out of the name of the world governing body. His phrase was, "Amateur boxing no longer exists as a concept." That man has long since gone in a wave of corruption and controversy, and yet the sport, amateur boxing, still survives. He wants to come to a gym like this, then he would understand what amateur boxing is and how difficult it is to keep clubs like this running. But it's here where those Olympic champions are made that adorn the bigger tournaments. And it's not just Olympic champions, it's not just about championships and trophies, we used to say. It's about the youngsters that walk in here and walk out that door as better people. And those are the big wins that we used to celebrate.
Mike, for you, what is the hope that the donation from Matchroom will allow the club to use to kind of bring it back to life?
Well, you've only got to look around you and see how much work has been done in the last few weeks, but also beneath us. It's the floor that needs help. And Keith Walters, the competition secretary here, pretty much running the club and has done for the best part of 5 decades, was saying that the local council were getting very concerned about the health and safety issues here. So without addressing those and without the repairs that we've seen here, to which the donation has been a great help, then the club, we don't know, but was very close to being wound up.
Obviously, you have Ellie Scotney down here as well, who's a current world champion. She trained and boxed out of this as an amateur. What do you feel like this means to her, and what have your conversations been like going around, looking at photos of yourself, looking at photos of her up on the walls from a very young and tender age?
Whoever we are, whatever we've gone on to do, we've all got our different memories of a place like this. And I was saying to Ellie that when I was here as a boxer and a coach, there were no girls, there were no women. And for a long time, they weren't allowed to box. It wasn't that they just didn't want to. So for Ellie, she is such an inspiration to the youngsters in the gym, and that's boys and girls, but also to the youngsters outside who can now look at Ellie and look at the acclaim that she's getting and say, if she can do it, then I can do it as well. And that's why she's such an important inspiration. And it's been great wandering around here with her today, just looking at all the different memories that she's got compared to me. But in the end, it's that sense of family, of coming back to somewhere where you felt so comfortable. And like me, when she walked in here, a smile spread across her face.
Mike, just whilst I got you, I just want to get your thoughts on the past weekend. Chris Eubank Jr. reversing the result from his first fight with Liam Smith with a stoppage victory. I imagine you caught up on it, you've watched it. What did you make of Junior's win?
Yeah, I thought it was a terrific performance. And I know, like others, there's this kind of Errol Spence, Terence Crawford analogy where, is it because Errol Spence was so bad or Terence Crawford was so good? I actually think that it's time to celebrate the performance of Chris Eubank. Given what he had to overcome psychologically in the months in between, with everybody online and elsewhere, it seems, telling him that he was finished. And I know it seems like that's worked as an inspiration for him, but it's a really strong character that can turn it that way and not listen to some of the criticism and to, in your darkest moments, ask yourself, am I really finished? So for me, psychologically, the performance was really impressive, as much as what he did physically on the night.
There's a lot of talk, obviously, about the Conor Benn fight taking place next. Do you still hold an interest in that person? I know you'd have obviously covered when their fathers met. Do you still have that interest now?
I think so, and if we go back to how big it was feeling before the first fight was called off, once Chris Eubank was beaten by Liam Smith, then you have to accept that it diluted the interest in that fight, but now suddenly it's exploded all over again, and can't wait for it to happen.
Mike, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Great stuff. Cheers, mate.